All right. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Ice Cream for PRs podcast. My name is Jeff Nippard, and we've got a bit of a different episode for you guys this week. I've got a lineup of special guests with me here. So we'll start with Josh Hancott, who's been on the show before, way back in episode 3. Josh was on and shared all of his knowledge about mental imagery and his whole mental approach to training with us. So welcome back, Josh.
Glad to be here, man. So episode 3 sounds like Star Wars or something.
Exactly, yeah. I think if I remember, we actually did that over a phone call and just recorded it through my speakers. So a lot of stuff has changed since then.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
For me and you both.
Yeah.
So the other guest we've got is JP Cauchi. JP was on just a couple of episodes ago talking about why he loves to cut weight more than he should and all that kind of stuff.
He's better, man. Maybe he's better. Hey, Jeff, thanks for having me again. Glad to be here again.
For sure. And then our third guest is his first time on the show. His name is Brett Gibbs. Welcome to the show, Brett.
Thanks for having me, man. Glad to be here.
For sure. So you're a Canadian now, hey?
Yeah, man. Living with Josh Hancott. He's actually just in the room right there. Moved over about 5 weeks ago now, living in Newfoundland.
How's that?
It's been good, man. It's been really good.
It's good now that he has a girlfriend. Hey, Brett.
Stay safe, brother.
No, man.
Very
All
good,
for life.
very good. So how has that adjustment been? Are you liking it in Newfoundland? Like, that's where I'm from, so.
Yeah, no, having a good time, man. Like, really nice people here.
Yeah.
The weather's been a bit of a change. Like where I'm from, New Zealand, it gets cold, but like nothing like here. Like heaps of snow. We had a snowstorm in like the second or third week I was here, which was actually really cool to see. It's my first Christmas where it's been cold, so I'm used to having like a barbecue and beers and that on Christmas, but this time was a lot different. Still with the beers though, but it's been awesome, man.
Yeah. Well, congrats to you and Josh. I hear you guys just kind of branded your own coaching brand and got lots of exciting stuff up the pipe for the new year, I'm sure. So maybe you can quickly tell us about what you guys have planned for 2016 in terms of yourself, and if you want to talk about your coaching and the brand and all that stuff, you can feel free to do that as well.
We can plug it.
Plug away, my
plug
friend.
away.
Yeah.
Sweet. 2016. Brett and I have different goals, but the end result is probably the same in terms of world championships in Texas, because we're raw lifters. That's where the world champs are. So for me to set myself up for that, I have to do CPU Nationals, which is in the end of February, so we're about 8-9 weeks out at the moment. So those are the two big meets for me. And then at the end of the year, probably like October or November, December, I'll probably do one more because it'll be my last comp as a junior lifter. So that's my athletic goals for 2016.
Gotcha. When is Worlds this year?
June,
okay. All right. So you're going to hit a meet end of February, CPU Nationals, then Worlds in June in Texas, and then something end of the year.
Yeah, likely something at the end of the year, yep.
Cool. Yeah, that's a nice schedule, man, and that's exciting about your last year as a junior. I remember it was my last year as a junior, and you just always kind of want to go out with something special like JP. But yeah,
for sure. It's going to be a good year.
Anyway. That was your last meet just last weekend, right, JP? Or was it?
Man, last week was my last international as a junior, but I squeezed in one more on the weekend, so I did 2 in 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 in a week and a half. Brett's laughing at me already. Cause
Tell us about the weigh-ins, bro. What was the 2 different weigh-ins? 7 days apart, pretty much.
So this is it's interesting, Jeff, because we spoke about this obviously 2 weeks ago with the whole weight cutting video, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
So 2 weeks ago, 16th of December, I competed in Uzbekistan. And that's where I competed at 66 kilos. So 145 pounds, weighed 65.95. And on Sunday just gone, I just competed in a local competition just back home, bench only, and I weighed in at 75.2.
Oh, shit.
So that's, I think, 164 pounds or something. Yeah. So I went up 10 kilos in like 10 days.
So you competed in 83. That's not.
I competed in 83 class. So I went up 2 weight classes in a week and a half.
Can I clarify? What did you bench press at 83 equipped?
315.
You're an embarrassment to my class.
I'm embarrassed to my own class.
At least you know it, bro.
What were your other lifts like though? Because I didn't get an update from you on that. I guess I just missed it, or you were.
I just competed bench only. So it was
bench only. Okay.
Yeah, I was just at my gym. So our gym hosted a comp, and I was like, I'll get involved. So I just did bench only. Put a shirt on, like I did at Equipped.
Yeah.
And it was terrible. I wasn't prepared for it at all. It was just for fun.
Yeah, right on. And Brett, what about you? What do you have planned for the new year?
So 2016 is going to be a pretty fun year for me. I'm going to the Arnolds for the first time in Ohio, so that's going to be really fun. There's going to be some big names there like Kelly Branton and Lane Norton's lifting in the same one. So it's going to be really exciting. So just want to hit some a PR total there. Hopefully can come away with the win on Wilkes. And then I just want to go back and win my second world title in Texas. So that's going to be really exciting. Got some big competition there. So I'm looking forward to getting that done.
Nice, man. Yeah, so I think I had a few people wondering, just acquaintances of mine, whether or not you'd be competing in the CPU, but I guess not, or you're not sure yet, or...
No, so I'm a member of the CPU and the New Zealand Powerlifting Federation. So basically, I just need to be a member of CPU for the drug testing rule. So if I'm living here, I need to be a part of the union so that they can come and drug test me at any time. So there's no questions asked.
Gotcha. But you don't plan on doing nationals or anything?
No, I won't be doing anything like that. Maybe after Worlds we'll see what's going on. But I would really like to come back in, like, say, September, October. Come back down to Australia and do a meet there. Catch up with all the guys down there.
Right on. Awesome. So yeah, I guess that covers everything. Not except for you, JP. We didn't really talk about what you got planned for the new year. Gonna try to lose some weight, or?
All right. Yeah. Are you staying in 66, or are you going up now?
What do you mean staying in 66? I'm not in the 66 anymore.
Are you going to dehydrate yourself and almost die to 66? Or?
Yeah, kill myself to do it.
Come take me on 83s, bro.
I want to stay out of that one. Nothing really planned for the year except for, obviously, Worlds in Texas, which is June 19 to 26, which we spoke about. So that's the next comp plan. So it's funny, we're going to talk about a little bit about it later, I think. But I've done like 15 comps in the last 3 years. So I've just been competing. So I want to take 6 months off. I'm not going to compete again until June. So 6 months of proper training and actually build some strength. So that's really all I've got planned at the moment. And then I might do, we got our Raw Nationals in October, and then I might do one at the end of the year. So pretty similar kind of idea to what Josh has got there. 3 comps for the year, but trying to give myself a little bit more time to train now.
Cool. Yeah, that was something I was actually going to ask you guys about, because that's something I preach a lot for bodybuilders, is like making sure you take enough time off to really allow your body to recover and recuperate, and then mentally prepare for the upcoming season or whatever you have planned. So I was wondering what you guys think about that in terms of a powerlifting context. Like you just said, JP, that you're planning on taking 6 months off just to kind of recover and make some gains and stuff. What do you guys think people should do in terms of extended off seasons, or is it better to just keep the experience going or whatever?
Who wants to kick this one off?
I'll start things off real quick. Just it depends. I think obviously it depends. It's kind of an easy answer, but what I kind of tend to see is that, especially when you become more experienced and you become stronger, comps can like really wipe you out. It takes a lot of time and a lot of effort to peak. I mean, Brett's peak into Perth was like a 13-week peak of just pure strength stuff. It was like heaps of like high intensity work. And that's like for 3 months, just for one comp. And then you need time to recover, build a foundation. You go up and down, up and down. And if you're trying to back up comps like straight after each other, you'll make no progress. You might get 5 kilos here or 10 kilos there. But if you want to actually get stronger, I think it's really important to take not time off, but time off competing. And just time to like really build a foundation. I'm sure the other boys will probably agree or say something similar. What do you reckon, Brett?
Yeah, well, I speaking from experience. So 2014, I did 4 competitions, pretty much the same structure. One was in like March, June. There was one in September, and then I did one in December. So I started off the year really well. Like, it was 2 raw comps. I made good progression. I think I went from 750 to 770, and then I did an equipped competition. And then coming into the one in December was actually my worst meet of the year. For 2 reasons, I went like 4 from 9. And it was the lowest total of the year as well. So it just showed that I was getting a little bit more burnt out. I didn't really have that any specific off-season training block, so I got really fatigued, not only with my body-wise, like just breaking down, but mentally as well. It's just really hard to keep going in and doing the same specific skills that we need for a powerlifting comp. And then 2015 was perfect. Like, I mean, hit my first meet, built from that again, and had a little bit of an injury coming into Worlds, but still felt really good for Worlds. Didn't quite go as well as planned, and then finished off strong 3 months later. And now that's given me another 3-month break before I even start to look at peaking again. So for me, as I'm a bit more skilled than a lot of other people who are sort of just coming into it 2 or 3 years into it, I think 3 months off or 3 competitions a year is really perfect.
Yeah, my take on it is, just basically going to reiterate what you guys said, but basically more so, I find that it's really hard as time goes by to just like, as soon as a meet is done, because I put so much like mental preparation into it, then I find after a meet I get like these post-meet like blues. I just feel like
the post-meet
like crap.
blues.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And I'm like, well, I just hit my goal, now what? Like, and I'm just not in the mood to like even think about it for a while. So that normally takes me about 4 weeks, and then I'm like ready to go again. So, moving forward, I would definitely like to do like maybe 2 big meets a year, like Nationals, Worlds, and then one other one like in between somewhere that it could still be a big meet in terms of like it's an international event, but like, the reward is not the same as a
lower priority kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
I think one of the hard things actually about that point though is, it's funny that Brett mentioned it, is that in powerlifting, like, I mean, I know it happened to Josh this year, where he had to compete at his nationals to qualify for Worlds, and a lot of the times you're forced to do comps when you don't want to.
Yeah.
So, for example, like with Raw and Equipped, like if you want to go to like Equipped Worlds, you might need to do Equipped Nationals and Equipped Worlds and a Raw Nationals and a Raw Worlds.
Yeah, it's
plus
crazy.
something else here and there. It's just you're being forced to compete, and I think the good thing for like, well, particularly I guess Josh and Brett, is that to qualify for Worlds is like less challenging. I think like Josh went into his nationals and like won quite comfortably, so you don't need to blow yourself apart. Like you can go in and take it a bit easier, and you don't need a peak as well. Whereas, say for example, you're someone who's a little bit more average. If you want to give yourself a chance of making the national team, you have to like peak as hard as you can for your nationals, and then try and back it up again like 10 weeks later for Worlds, which can be really, really hard. So I guess, like I said, it depends on the lifter, but it depends on what your goals are, when you're trying to compete, when your events are.
Yeah, like your federation can play such a big role in it. Like for me, myself, I've done more than twice as many World Championships as I've done nationals. I've done 2 national events. I think I've done 5 or 6 World Championships now. So, I mean, it just goes to show, like, I mean, what your federation is like and when they actually time it. Not everyone's calendar is the same. That plays a huge role as well, and what your president's like.
Yeah.
What do you reckon about the timing of your nationals this year, Josh? In February, that's a lot better, I reckon.
Oh, it's way better, honestly. The only thing that kind of sucks is like I was invited to do the Arnold. It would have been my 3rd time doing it. I absolutely love the show. I think America does a great job at hosting that event. So Brett's gonna love it, America. But yeah, like I mean, so besides that, I think that's definitely smart. So I think there's about 14 weeks, or it could even be longer.
Yeah, that's like really good.
So you know what I mean? So it's like 3 weeks to just get mentally prepared again before a huge peak for Worlds. So I'm gonna come into nationals and. Me and Brett are going to discuss the numbers itself, but I just want to just literally do what I have to do to win. So like no specific game plan, and then set out to destroy at Worlds.
Yeah, man, that's cool.
So Josh, I think I heard rumors somewhere that you were thinking about going up to the 83. Is that still a thing, or what's your plan there, or is that a press reaction? If Josh lies, you tell me the real answer.
He'll be my bitch at home and he'll be my bitch on the platform.
You just made me dinner, man. No, I was genuinely considering it, mainly because of my height. I'm 5'9" in the 74 division. It's very, very tall. I compete against like little hobbits like 3 of you guys when I go to these events. But like right now, I train about 77, and as JP says, big as better. So I wouldn't mind being, a couple of kilos heavier and still cut down. But no, for 2016, I'm definitely staying in the 74. But eventually, I will have to go up, which is intimidating. Seeing Brett totals, 830 kgs, like 200 kilos more than me. So. Basically.
What do you train at, Brett? Like what weight?
It's varied over the years. So like I used to always be 85, and then like coming into Worlds this year, I was always at 83 because I was getting my macros from like January all the way to June. And then when I worked with JP, I got up to, I think I peaked at 88, like a couple of weeks before the competition.
JP's influence.
But JP,
No, but it was me and JP talked about it, and I wanted to do it like a big up. And The heaviest I've really been is 90, but that's really only for a couple of days at a time. If it's like water bloated or just been having too many burgers.
Too many shock tops.
Too many shock tops. You can have enough shock top, but they're so good.
What are they? What is
but
it?
Yeah, so
it's the best beer on the planet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a Belgian. Right now I'm sitting around anywhere from 86 to 88, so like really exactly where I want to be right now.
Yeah, that's crazy. Good stuff. So I was hoping maybe you guys could like go into maybe just a touch more detail on how it is that break of training would differ. So like, do you ever just take like a full, like just don't go in the gym, don't lift a weight or anything like that? Or do you just kind of like tone back on the intensity, tone back on the volume, or like increase the exercise variation, do, some bodybuilding type stuff? Or like how exactly does that differ? Maybe we can start with you again, JP.
Well, I think the general kind of idea in terms of an annual calendar is that after your biggest comp of the year, you do take time off, and not time off like lower intensity, lower volume, but genuine time off. I mean, us three boys had the pleasure of traveling a little bit after Worlds this year, where we didn't really train, or we hit the gym and just did some silly stuff. But for the most part, literally taking time away from the gym, literally not touching weights for 2 or 3 weeks, I don't think it's a bad thing. And there's been good research to support that idea as well. So I guess if you're looking at your annual calendar after your biggest comp of the year, so for us probably the Worlds, for 2 or 3 weeks after, no training at all. And then maybe if you do like Josh said before, after his nationals, you might take 2 or 3 weeks of like lighter training, maybe not time off completely, but some lighter training to come in. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, again, the same thing with me. My family normally does an annual family vacation, so typically speaking, we go to Florida. So if I go to Florida and I'm there like on vacation, like I actually want to be on vacation. I don't want to train. I might go in and do some curls and stuff before I hit the beach or something. But I'm not actually there to train. So maybe 2 weeks of the year where I do absolutely nothing, and then besides that, I might have 4 weeks spread out a couple different times where I'm just doing like conditioning stuff.
Yeah. For me, it's always been so hard. Like whenever I go away for these competitions, I'm living in New Zealand, obviously from all these competitions I've gone to all across the world, and it takes a couple of days to get there. So generally I always want to go have a couple of weeks, look around, and I can have time away from the gym completely if I'm doing that. But let's say I was a local competition, I needed some time off, and if I'm just sitting at home somewhere, I'm always constantly thinking about, getting better. I always want to be in the gym, and it's so hard for me to if I'm sitting around home or where I'm now in Canada, to actually not be able to go to the gym at all. So the best times is always when I'm traveling. And I think the best example of that was probably December 2013. I just took 2 full weeks off. I went to Bali, didn't go to the gym once, even though the group of guys I were with went to the gym a couple of times. I just said no, don't want to go at all, and came back really, really refreshed. And that was something I sort of try to mimic this year. We're taking a good 10 days off after I did a little peak in the gym. So, yeah, definitely need some time off completely.
Yeah. And I guess, the lifts aren't that complicated. It's kind of like riding a bike. Like, you take a couple weeks off, you're not going to forget how to lift all of a sudden. I feel like a lot of guys are scared to take time off from the gym, especially bodybuilders. Like, they think their muscles are just going to go to waste. But it takes a lot of bed rest to see that much atrophy. And for you guys, with all the stuff you've put your body through, I think that makes most sense to just take some time off and just relax altogether. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
So when it comes to say, your more intense training or whatever, do you guys, like Brett, I watched a video of you with your max testing day, which was absolutely insane, by the way. I'm sure if you guys, if anyone's listening who hasn't watched it, you should go watch it. Great filming, Josh.
Thank you.
It's improving. So how often do you guys do something like that where you just kind of go all out and do like a max day or an AMRAP test, or how do you guys structure
Not
that?
very often, man. That was just it was something I wanted to do at the end of this year. I'd had good 3 months of training, after the comp in September. I'd had some time off after that comp, and I wanted to come back and just sort of see where I was at. So I knew coming into 2016 where my strength was at. But it's not very often I'm absolutely maxing out in singles in the gym. I might do a 10 RPE, on a 3 or a 4, but it's very rarely doing a 1 rep max.
Yeah.
JP?
Well, maxing out, maybe pushing 1RMs and stuff. Yeah, probably the real same. I try to avoid it as much as I can. And it's interesting what you said before about the whole riding a bike analogy. You don't forget how to lift. You always need to work on your technique, but you don't forget, I mean, at the start of this year, I took 8 weeks off sumo deadlifts. Like I didn't sumo for 8 weeks, just did conventional, and then I sumoed once, and then I competed the week after, and my strength was the same as it was. Like I didn't lose any strength. If anything, I built a really good foundation for the next 8 weeks. So, yeah, I think it's like you said, you don't forget how to do things, but I don't really max out in the gym very often. I just kind of save it for competitions, and like we said before, competitions are so taxing. I'd rather not kind of blow myself up in the gym for no reason.
Yeah, basically when like years earlier, I'll go back like 3 years ago or 2 years ago even, I found that I would max out more often, like almost like when I was like an intermediate lifter. And it was mainly because I wasn't doing these larger competitions, so it wasn't like I had anything to like train for. So I'm just like, okay, I'll see where I'm at. Let's go for a spontaneous max day. That doesn't really happen anymore, right? So I try and if I do it and it's like in the gym, I might do it like once a year now. Besides that, I try and save it for the platform.
Right. So how do you guys assess kind of where your strength is at? So do you, like Brett, you said you do like a 10 RP with like triples or fours or something like that. Is that kind of like then you just kind of plug those numbers in and figure out about where your maxes are from there and then plug those in going forward? How do you manage that?
Like, how do I know where I'm roughly at?
Yeah, like how do you know that you're actually improving from, you know, if you're not testing your 1RMs, like do you just go by how those sets feel and stuff like that?
You've always got a rough idea where you're at, like, you know, like in your last peaking cycle, you know, you might have maxed with say 270 for 3 or something like that, and you sort of know how that felt. What was the form like on that day? You know, how were you feeling? I remember all of these small things from like, you know, a couple of years training, and I remember like last time I did 272.5 for a triple. It was absolutely maxed out. Like, it was only one set I was able to do, and the form was breaking down. Then I remember coming around to this time, I was like 272, moved well for 3. I got another set. I knew I was a lot stronger, so I knew my max was now going to be well above what I'd previously done. So it's just those small things. I always think about the form, the speed, and how fatigued was I after that? Can I do another one? Can I do any more? Yeah. So I sort of assess it that way.
Yeah. What about you, JP? Like, do you ever do AMRAP tests or anything like that?
No, I don't do AMRAPs. I don't like AMRAPs, but kind of similar to what Brett said in that it's the smaller things. Yeah, team
Zagidi.
Cool out.
Shout out to Joey if you're listening.
Yeah, man, what's up? No, so not a fan of the AMRAPs. Not a form of testing. Kind of like what I do agree with what Brett said about you kind of knowing where you're at and go, well, last time I did this, it was harder or it was easier, or you know, giving yourself RPEs on sets is really important as well. What I kind of have tended to do now, especially as progress kind of slows down a little bit, you know, you get more advanced and you don't kind of like see those beginner gains anymore, is you just know that you're not going to add 30 kilos to a lift in 6 weeks. Like, it just doesn't happen. So, for example, like just for argument's sake, my best squat's 225. When I'm leading into Worlds, I know that this year at Worlds, I'm not going to squat 250. Like, even if I wanted, I'm not going to squat like 550 pounds. It's not going to happen. But you can kind of like build yourself up towards what you want to achieve, and that's kind of where I'm like my kind of approach with a lot of my programming is going, well, where am I at now? What would be a realistic goal in 12 to 16 to 20 weeks, and how can we go about getting there? And I don't need to know where I'm at. Like midway through volume blocks, I'll genuinely be in the dark as to what my max is or what my strength is. But if 6 weeks ago my max was 225, I guarantee you it's not 200 now. Like, I didn't lose 25 kilos in strength, and I didn't gain 25 kilos in strength as well. Like, might have gone up and down 5 kilos due to fatigue or whatever, but there's no sudden changes. You never need to test. Whereas when you're a beginner and you're adding so much strength so quickly, you kind of do need to test every 6 to 10 weeks to see where you're at, because you never know how a beginner's going to respond to their training. But when you're more advanced, the progress is a lot slower, so you don't need to test very often at all.
Right. I'm curious. I don't think you do anyways, unless you're secretive about it, Brett. But do you guys JP, have like a training log? Like, do you actually write down the numbers you hit on this date? I did this.
I used to be really meticulous. Now I just write programs for myself and I just follow them, and they all kind of just fit in one page really. And then, it just kind of changes. But I'm not really meticulous like that at all. I kind of just know, and I just kind of remember what I do. But I know it sounds really lazy, but I kind of do. I'm sure.
I mean, I used to do that like years ago, but I haven't done it since. And I think that just what happens with time is like, it's like 3 of us are like, I'd say very experienced lifters. You just get this like intuition of like lifting, like you just know where you're at. So as time goes by and you're like peaking for an event, like you can pretty much predict where your numbers are going to be. You're not
Yeah.
outlandish about your predictions like you are when you're maybe a beginner or intermediate lifter.
Right.
Can I ask you a question, JP? Because you're training out of a city, and you've got a good group there. You've got a lot of new lifters coming through. Do you always see them after 6 weeks just wanting to max out, or do you just see them in the gym maxing out and just making absolute fools of themselves? Do you see a lot of that sort of going on?
So for those that don't know, thanks for the plug there. So I'm training out of Obsidian Strength Powerlifting Club in Melbourne, the best powerlifting club in Melbourne actually. And I coach out of there. So there's a couple of coaches, and all the guys that come through, all the beginners, they end up getting coaching from the coaches. So we don't really let them do that. It happens all the time. Like I've got a kid.
But they want to do it?
Yeah. I've got a kid who was he's 93 kilos. He's 18, first comp on the weekend. And the last 6 weeks, man, I want to bench 140. Can I do it? And he'll be doing his training. Can I go heavier? Can I put 5 kilos on? Can I put 10 kilos on? I'm like, no, man, trust the process. You got to calm it down and take it on board as you go. But when you're beginners, it's I feel so strong. Can I go heavier? I'm like, no, man.
It's that they need to learn for themselves almost, isn't it?
100%. You can't teach that, honestly. You can't, because
you have to make the mistakes almost. You almost have to realize, that was a dumb idea, and then don't do it again.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, I remember a time frame where I used to, back in 2013, I didn't pull 500 pounds before, 230 kgs, whatever, 227 and a half. And I tried it, honestly, 50 times before I got it. And I never actually put in the work to actually go and do it. I was just trying it. And
hoping one day it would fall, but no, never.
Yeah. That's when people plateau, so.
Sounds like JP with 300, but we'll carry on.
When will it happen, man?
I can try and fool us with those bumper plates.
At least he loaded it on, or I would shit myself if I put that on.
Yeah, it's not even get started with your deadlift.
I don't know if I know the 300 story. What
300 kilos?
Yeah.
I've just been chasing 300 kilo deadlift for the last year and a half.
Oh, okay. What did you get at your last meet?
I did 277.5, but I was forced to do that for the win, so I couldn't do anything.
Exactly. Yeah.
I probably had another pound in me, maybe.
Maybe.
Read my mind.
It was hard.
That's very hard.
By pound means nothing. He had nothing to do.
Respect though. That was a good solid pull.
Yeah, that was amazing.
That was awesome.
I've done 660 in the gym, but on bumper plates and fake stuff. So Greg keeps calling me.
What's fake stuff? Straps and
no, fake stuff.
Oh, okay.
So
Jeff, I thought he said fake.
Yeah.
That's what I heard.
The Aussies are not very politically correct. They're not as politically correct as us Canadians.
Loose as Aussies.
So how do you guys keep tabs on yourselves? How do you just aim for an RPE of 8 or 9, generally speaking, or what? Because even myself, when I'm training intuitively, I tend to just want to push it a little bit further, or get a little bit closer to that failure point. So I guess JP, like you said, you have it all pre-written ahead of time, so you just go by. You're this is what I'm going to do, and then you just kind of go in there and do it. But yeah, do you ever get tempted to just go all out and push yourself probably a little harder than you should?
For sure. So personally, I'm not a big fan of pre-planning RPEs and saying, well, today I want to hit this at 9 or this at 8.
Right.
I think a lot of people kind of get carried away with the at 8, at 9 thing because it's always at 8s and 9s.
Yeah.
But really, I mean, when I do my working sets, say I'm doing sets of 5, it's usually with a weight that I could do for, honestly, 10 or 15. But it's still hard. When I was doing an off-season block and I was deadlifting, I went into training doing 5.5. This is a good example of what we were saying before about getting tempted to kind of push yourself, because I guess if you want to be competitive, you get competitive with yourself. So I was doing 5 sets of 5 deadlift with 225 kilos or 495 pounds.
Yeah.
And I remember I was going to do 5.5s, and I did the first 3 sets, and I said to myself, I want to see if I can do the next 2 sets in 1 set. So I got 10 reps out at a weight that I was doing 5s at. So really all of those first 3 sets were at 5 RPE, I guess you could say. But they felt hard. They still felt difficult.
Yeah.
But I guess that's kind of where I kind of push myself, is say, well, can I squeeze out another 2.5 here, or can I do the next 2 sets in 1 set, or maybe I can squeeze out an extra rep. But I do try to avoid that when I am in a very specifically written comp prep. When I'm in an off season, my programs are a little bit more flexible, I guess. But when I'm in a comp prep, I don't do that really.
Yeah.
See what JP said there. I used to use a technique similar to that. So I'd go in on I'd do a lot of RPE training. So I sort of roughly knew what I wanted to hit at this RPE, and I'd adjust if it wasn't feeling well that day or whatever. But I would go in and have a non-intense day, and then the other day would be intense. So it means I've got to really switch on mentally for every set. And then like the other days I'd go on, like it might be an 8 RPE. And the difference between like the non-intense day and an intense squat day, you're talking like, 30, 40 kilos at the same RPE, just because of the way you approach the bar. So just like what JP, just like what he does. He walks up to it. He does his set of 5, and he's not really overthinking anything, but it's moving relatively well, and it feels heavy. But then on that last set, he wants 10 reps.
It forces you to switch on.
Yeah, he's like switching on. He's like, right, I need 10. 10's in my head. Let's do it. And the first 5 move just like boom. Yeah. And then he knows he can grind it out. So I used to actually program those days in, and they used to work really, really well.
Nice. Cool. So are any of you guys a fan of say top sets? So you'll work up to like a heavy weight, like say like 85 to 95% of your 1RM, and kind of hit that set and then back off and do your volume work.
Josh, can you kick things off here?
Yeah, I mean,
he's getting ready. He'd love.
Obviously, yeah. You guys,
hold on.
you guys know I love that stuff. So, but there's definitely a time and a place for it still too. So yeah, I think it's very effective when you're peaking for a contest, because again, it gives you, if you're doing like a 5x5 or 6x4, well, it's kind of hard to predict where your single is at. So if you come in and you do like a double or a single that's relatively smooth beforehand, then drop back, then I find it's way easier and it like boosts your confidence. You're like, okay, next week I only got to do 5Ks more, and this was so easy. So next week I'm going to smoke it, and you can almost see the linear progression coming into the meet to set it up to do all your 9 attempts.
Yeah, Josh. So I just have a question for you. Like, would you aim to increase the load that you're doing on those top singles leading into the meet, or would you just kind of keep those steady throughout, or judge it just based on how you're feeling that day?
Now, basically, I always try and judge it based on how I feel that day, regardless, like period. So, like, because, other factors come into play, like whether you slept good or, got in an argument or whatever. So whatever the case may be, I always trying to adjust. However, if I'm feeling good, I don't try and put more weight on than I'm supposed to. I actually hold myself back. So I'd rather like almost be like, I guess, undertrained instead of overtraining and burning myself out. That's how I feel coming into a meet.
So all about progression, isn't it? All about progression each week.
Exactly. So as weeks go by, like if you're benching, you're doing 350 and you're in your like 3rd week in, then I would want to go up maybe by like 5 pounds each week to, hit my goal.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What about you, JP?
That's a good question. I kind of like to think of, it depends obviously on the time of year and the cycle. So in a comp prep, I do like the top singles because it's real good at like getting athletes mentally prepared to take on heavy singles in the comp. So I know that's where kind of Josh comes from as well. Is like, if you're like, because I like to tell my guys, I think I did this with Brett actually, is that when you're taking on those top sets, you need to think of it as your 3rd attempt in a comp. Like you need to approach it as if this 250 kilo squat's a 300 kilo squat. So when you get to your 300 kilo squat, it feels like it's 250 kind of thing. Whereas if I'm in a more of an off-season block, the way I like to think of it is, it's just like I call it an over warm-up. Like you warm up more than you have to. So for example, if you're going to do, say you're an off-season block and you're doing, 5 sets of 6 at 70%, doing a single at 80% is just a warm-up. Like normally a single at 80% is a warm-up if you're going up to a max.
Exactly.
So 80% for one, 80% for one isn't fatiguing. It's not going to interfere with your volume. It's just a really thorough warm-up. You might do 50%, 60%, 70%, 80% for one, then drop back down and do your working set. So that's less about mental imagery, less about comp prep, and more just about warming up really thoroughly. Whereas in a comp cycle, it's more about that mental focus and learning how to approach heavy singles and learning how to see a bar loaded with heavy weights and say, like, this doesn't intimidate me. So I guess it's just a different approach at different times of year, but the same, I guess, method.
Concept, yeah.
I thought it was interesting what Josh said, because like one of the criticisms of that approach that you'll often hear is like it takes away from what you're able to put in terms of your volume work. So like if you do the heavy single, your CNS gets more fatigued, and then when you actually get to the stuff that is actually going to be driving your progress, you're not able to push it as much there. But like what I've found when I've used top sets in my training, and I'm a fan of them as well, or when I have used them, I found them to be effective. I actually found that when I went to the volume work, I was more confident, like you said, Josh.
Yeah, 100%.
It's like you just feel better, like the weight feels lighter and everything. It's like when you shoot hoops, it's like you use the big medicine ball, and then when you pick up the basketball, it feels super light. So It was the opposite to me. I just don't think that's a really good criticism of that one.
I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because if you do a weight that, just say you're supposed to, because it says so on your progression on paper or whatever, and you're like, okay, I'm doing it, like you still have to auto-regulate, right? So like you have to know that it's going to be crisp rep. Whereas if it's a 10 out of 10 grinder, of course your working sets are going to feel like shit as well.
Exactly.
Right. So that kind of takes a little bit of a lifter intuition.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's like, I think both mentally and like, so mentally it makes sense, you know, it gives you confidence and all that stuff. But physiologically, there's a reason behind it as well. I mean, in sports science, it's called post-activation potentiation. It's where your nervous system gets switched on. Like I said, doing 80% for one is just a warm-up. So it switches on your CNS. So when you go and do your lighter stuff, it feels lighter, but like it genuinely does, because your nervous system's a lot more warmed up. I mean, I heard a story when I was in exercise science that I forget who it was. I think it might have been the Bulgarian track and field team, or like some Eastern Bloc track and field team. And at the Olympics in like the 1970s, they would demand that at the Olympic like athletics track and field, that they had a full like weight set in the warm-up room. So like they'd get high jumpers squatting like 220 kilos, and then 20 minutes later go outside and like do their high jump. Yeah. So like they would warm up with heavy stuff. So going a little bit heavier, that's not so heavy that it fatigues you, but lighter, but heavy enough that it warms you up, I think is almost always a good thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. So let's move on from the training stuff into some specific meet stuff here now. So JP, you and I talked at length about cutting weight for meets, but just maybe Josh and Brett can bring us up to speed on their approaches. So Brett, I think you said you've been as light as 83 in your training, but I'm assuming you're planning on doing a cut now. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about your past with water cuts and that kind of thing.
Well, I mean, water cuts, I mean, they're pretty straightforward. You know, I always lose a couple of kilos through that. I lose a bit of appetite, so I cut down my calories slightly coming into competitions. And the weight sort of just naturally falls off. I've always monitoring my body weight. So, like, say I'm doing a 3-month peaking cycle. And even right now, like every morning I'm waking up, I'm weighing myself, sort of seeing where I'm at. I'm not counting my macros, anything like that. I'm just sort of seeing, you know, where my body weight's at and what I need to do to adjust that. I mean, I've gone through phases, like I said, that I've done like full macro counting. I felt fine. I got a bit leaner, but I think as far as just being a bit bigger, that's really what I wanted to achieve. So I just like with a bit of intuition, you know. If you know your body, it's actually pretty easy to do, you know, to cut those 4 or 5 kilos.
Yeah. Josh?
Yeah, I mean, I'm basically the same way. I've never tried macro counting, anything like that. I've just always done a water cut. Actually, for the first probably 4 or 5 meets I've done, I was always like 74 kilos. There was one contest in 2013 where I just didn't cut anything and still weighed in at 74.9 and cut nothing. I was like eating the night before trying to gain weight. But yeah, I mean, I've just always water cut. As soon as I like started training about 77, 78 kgs, I just water cut, and you know, I find it works well for me, so I just stick with that really.
Yeah. Do you guys find there's like a individual or like a genetic component to people's ability to cut water? Like I know JP, you can get away with a lot. I've just noticed this personally in just some of my athletes. Like some people just seem to drop water super easy, and others have a really tough time doing it. And it almost seems to me like powerlifters at the highest level are also powerlifters who are able to drop water really easily. And that may or may not be a coincidence. But is that something that you guys have noticed as well, or?
I find it's definitely easier for men to drop than women.
Yeah.
I'm actually very impressed that JP can cut so much, because like that actually blows my mind. Yeah. So mainly for me, every time I've cut it's genuinely easy. Like I don't find it hard whatsoever, right? So I think that if I actually did like a huge cut, I could probably get to like 68 kilos, and then I would end up, you know, probably in the hospital or something. But yeah, so I find it's easy. I don't know if it has anything to do with genetics or not, but the mental capacity that JP has to cut that much is very, very damn impressive.
Yeah, I think that's the most like the trait that kind of carries through. So Jeff, you said that top level lifters tend to be really good at cutting weight, and I think it's because top level lifters, if you want to get good at any sport or anything really, you kind of have to have a very good mental strength. And cutting weight is very mentally challenging. Like if you're a beginner who gets anxious very easily, who doesn't understand lifting, who hasn't got much experience, then cutting weight will be like the worst thing you can do, because it's a very stressful time and mentally it's really challenging. I mean, I mean, I don't want to sound like a broken record, or I don't want to kind of ask for sympathy, but when you're in the sauna and you've been in the sauna for like 4 hours and the sauna's like 110 degrees and you've like haven't eaten in like 24 hours and you haven't had water in 18 hours and you've lost literally 5 kilos or 11 pounds, and then you go check your weight and you're still a kilo over with an hour to go before weigh-in start, like that is a very mentally stressful. It's like I almost want to welt up because like it's a very stressful time. Like that's exactly what happened to me in Uzbekistan last week. I checked my weight an hour out and I was still a kilo over, and like a part of me just wanted to like break down and just stress out. But I think more importantly, the athlete side of me, the mental side of me was like, and I was really lucky actually because I was cutting weight with a friend of mine who was cutting a lot less than I was, but we were good friends. We often train together back home, and he kind of like slapped me on the back and he said to me, "Come on, man, you're the champion. This is why you're the best at this." And it almost fired me up, and I was like, "Fuck yes, I can do this. I can do this." So I think having that mental strength is really important when you're trying to cut weight because it's not glamorous. Like I know I make a big deal about it and say, "Oh, cutting weight's really good. It's the most effective thing to do," but it's not glamorous at all. It's painful. It's hard, and I think it's not a coincidence that being mentally strong helps you cut weight, and being mentally strong makes you a better lifter in round. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't look for ways out, man. We want to get it done where you get the job done. We know what it takes to do it, so yeah, that's what we've got to do.
Yeah. So guys, when you're called out to lift and they say the bar is loaded, is there anything that goes through your head, or is it just white noise, or what's going on when that happens for you guys? Brett?
Oh man,
to kick yourself, Brett. You can...
There's so many mixed emotions, I guess, over the years. You know, sometimes I think about my family. You know, where are they at this point? You know, sometimes it's the music, like that I've been listening to. But there's always something going through my head. But that's never who's around me. Like I don't look out into the crowd and think like, oh, there's a massive crowd and that's getting me fired up. It's always in my head, and generally all that stuff that I'm going to be thinking about. Internally, like I've thought about that for days and days and days before even stepping onto that stage. Like an example, like I would look at the stage, like say in Perth this year in September, like I would look at the stage, and before like anyone was even around, before like just after I'd weighed in, I could like envision myself walking up and grabbing the bar, all those little things that they just run repeat in my head, and that's exactly what happens. Like so, it's just that visual imagery, I guess.
Yeah, I forget there was a lifter, I think, in the IPF. I forget his name now, but he used to bring himself to tears before he would lift. I don't know if you guys know who that is, but he just tries to think of like the most emotionally wrenching thing.
Oh, you're thinking of George?
You're talking about George Lee.
Yeah, that's who it is. Yeah.
He's not the IPF.
IPF? Okay.
Hashtag not even once.
No, okay, all right. We'll get onto the topic of that after, but what about you, Josh?
I mean, it depends on the individual. It always does. You see some people come out and they smack themselves and they're shouting and going ballistic. Other people walk out, calm as if they're going to give a speech at a presidential election or something. I like to try and be a little bit of both. I look calm when I walk out, but inside I'm literally ready to like kill everyone in the stadium. Basically, is what's going on inside of me. I just basically try and think of things that motivate me in my life. Things that I like it when people doubt me. Like I genuinely like it when someone doubts me, and like when I get my mind put to something. So I like to think about that, but then at the same time, that's kind of a negative thought if I'm always focused on that. So I try and think of here's all the people who support me. Like let's go win for them. So. Those are the things I like to think of, and besides that, while you're wired that way, you still have to actually be there in the moment and walk out the weight and be like, okay, let me take my 2 steps in the squat, make sure my form is on point, and stand up. So there's a lot of things that go on in your head, but I've been to the point where I've made myself cry before I've lifted before too. The emotions run really high because generally when you peak for a meet, it's not 3 months, like. It's a lifetime progress when no one knows who you are. Like literally no one knows who you are, and you put in so much work, and it's now your time to show it. For you, your family, your friends, your country, it's a very emotional thing, and outside looking in, people just don't get that. They just don't understand it.
Yeah. JP?
Dude, that was deep, man. That was real
Yeah.
heavy. I don't know how to follow up after that.
I had an orange monster, so
Yeah. Is that Josh
Man,
Hancott
are you
or
gonna cry,
Lee
man? I
Norton?
feel like I'm gonna.
Bye,
I'm
old
gonna
mate.
cry. What do I think when I'm lifting? That's a good question. It's changed over the years, kind of like what Brett said. I don't think about all that kind of stuff that the other two boys do. I'm more in the moment, so I don't really think about my family or friends or anything like that, or nothing to that effect. It's just more in the moment. I mean, I'm really relaxed. Like, I'm a really relaxed guy. I enjoy being on the platform. So, like, for example, at Junior Nationals this year, I kind of like talked to the referees. Like, I mean, I remember setting up under a squat and I saw the chief referee was one of my friends. And while I was setting up, I was like, "Oh, hey, Joel, how you going?" Like, I'm really relaxed at like smaller comps. Obviously, at bigger comps, I'm a lot more switched on. So yeah, I don't really
That's why
think
your
about
squat's so slow.
Well, actually, it's funny you mention that because I think that's one thing that I changed with my bench in the last 6 months is that I give it a bit more respect. I used to be like, I suck at this anyway. Who cares? Like, give it no focus and no effort. But really, I think that's been one thing. Give it a bit
Come
more
on, bro,
respect.
you're lying
and
to us
being a
now.
little bit more alert. Yeah.
no, it is true though. You watch JP compete, and it's weird. Like, you know, like every lifter has their own style, but like if I acted the way that like he did, like I just wouldn't be there. It would just like
Focus, yeah.
whatever works for him. You know what I mean? Like we're different. Like, and Brett's different again. I think me and him are a little bit more similar, more so than me and JP in terms of the way we approach game day. But like I walk into like the event with headphones on. Like I don't want to talk to anyone. Like I'm at weigh-ins and people are coming over to shake my hand, and I'm like, get the hell away from me. Like I don't want to see you. Talk to me after. You know, like, and people are like, like I think Robin actually mentioned it once at CPU Nationals was the first time I ever met her, and I was like super intense. And she was like, she mentioned that last time we were on the podcast. She was like, oh wow, like you're way more laid back and like chilled, but like that day, you know, I give off wrong impressions because like I'm there for a reason. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I'm not here to muck around.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm like that even like days before. Like people come up to me when we get there. I'm like, dude, go away. Like, just I want to talk to me after, man. Like, they're like 2 or 3 days out.
Yeah.
That's just me.
What kind of music do you guys listen to before you go out? Like, are you metal or hip hop or?
Bit of both, man.
Yeah.
Bit of both, eh?
bit of both. It's not Drake or Justin Bieber, Brett.
Big Drake, big Justin Bieber fan, but that's for my downtime.
You're right at home here in Canada, then.
Exactly.
Man.
Hey.
I'm more Adele
what do you
and
listen
Justin
to?
Bieber, and I'm pretty relaxed, man. I don't actually have headphones. I don't bring headphones with me. I don't bring
No,
headphones.
that's
to comps.
crazy. Wow.
I know,
So
you
just
know
talking
what I
to
mean?
people.
It's like what we said before. I'm real relaxed. I mean, in between squat attempts at Worlds, I was going out to the crowd and like seeing my friends, like, "Hey, how was that?" And like, "That was really good." I'm like, "Yeah." Anyway, talking shit. I'm like, "Oh, I gotta go. I'm lifting in 5 minutes." So like, I'd go back outside and do my second attempt. Like,
That's crazy. I'm
so
surprised.
relaxed. Yeah.
I'm surprised you don't listen to like Beethoven, or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Mozart. I basically, it always depends. Like, I really like Eminem when I'm
Eminem's
competing specifically. But yeah, I mean, you know, the music I listen to is just so diverse anyway. So if you like took my phone and went through like all my music, it's just like none of them correspond whatsoever. But basically, what you want to do is like what I like to do anyways is try and get a song that resonates with you before you actually walk out, so you actually get like a emotional response.
Yeah.
So that Tiger and Pia Mia song, that one?
Yeah, do it again. Yeah.
He listened to that about 100 times.
I did. That's true.
I find like if I can find a song that's like kind of new that like I just found in like say the last week or something like that, it like is fresh to me, because when I find like when I have a new gym playlist in the gym, I always have better sessions for whatever reason.
Yeah, I'm always like, give me something fresh. You know?
Exactly. So I try to plan it for my meet so that like I have some fresh new music on my iPod. So yeah, because I do find music pretty motivating. So